make you laugh that it literally triggers feminists when you say, like, I want to make my man a sandwich?
She never withholds sex to get her way.
Intimacy is a gift, not a bargaining chip. I will never use it as a weapon.
Husband corrected me in the most loving and godly manner yesterday, and I am just,
Submission is the most beautiful gift that a woman can receive, and also the most beautiful gift that a woman can give to her husband.
Hello and welcome to Unreligiously. My name is Lauren, and today I am really excited to be diving into some top TikToks that I found, really, that are women talking about submission, biblical submission to your husband. These videos perfectly outline the type of thing that I am critiquing in Christian culture, and I know that with the style of my videos, oftentimes I'll pick one person, compile their videos, and make a point using those. But you can come away from those videos wondering if it's just that one person or if it really is a structure-wide problem. In today's video, I hope that it will show you clearly that this type of relationship structure, biblical submission to your husband, is something that is very prevalent, very common, and is unfortunately something that leads a lot of couples into abuse type patterns. We're not going to take too much longer in the intro. Let's just get right into it. These are some of the top TikToks that I pulled on biblical submission.
Doesn't it make you laugh that it literally triggers feminists when you say, like, I want to make my man a sandwich, or I want to serve him, or I want to be submissive? Why do you get so mad by that? Why does that trigger you? Like, let's just reflect for a second. When you find a good man, you love doing those things for him. I don't know about you, but I love to make my husband food. He wants a sandwich, I will go gladly make him a sandwich. He wants me to pack his lunch. No problem. No problem. That's not an issue for me. Like, why does that get you so mad when you hear other women saying they want to serve their husband or their household? Why do you guys get so triggered?
I'll speak for myself, although I do think that I kind of do speak for the general public on this as well. But when I hear women talking about submitting to their husbands, I don't really have an issue with it. I say on this channel a lot that even secular people that I know have chosen in some of their relationships to have like a hierarchy that could mirror biblical submission. Like, one partner typically makes the big decisions. If they're gonna, they're in an argument, one of them will kind of defer to the other. I don't really have an issue with that, you guys. I think that can be a natural pattern a lot of relationships fall into. Where it becomes problematic for me is when you believe that it's mandated by God, when you believe that you should be truly submitting to your husband in all things, and that is of spiritual importance. Because that's when we see wives start getting abused, stop having a voice, stop being able to advocate for themselves. Some Christian wives might be in a marriage where they can verbalize dissent a bit better, but we see a lot of marriages where, to follow the biblical structure, what they're really supposed to do if they don't agree with their husband's leadership is to pray about it. That's really, and ask God to change their heart, and otherwise to just trust that their husband is following God, even if it feels wrong to them, because they're praying about it and trusting that either God will change their heart or whatever. It's like, that's not really realistic for a lot of people. And I personally have seen a lot of people get sucked into lives they never wanted or situations they never wanted to be a part of because they felt like they were kind of mandated to follow whatever the man wanted. They didn't feel like they had a voice. Yeah, I say it a lot in my videos, but Christian marriages in evangelical fundamentalism in America, because of how much emphasis they place on this, it's almost difficult, even for great couples, great foundationally good people. It's hard for them not to mimic really toxic relational patterns when they're trying to be like biblical wives and biblical husbands, because it truly is so unclear. Applying things to modern day is just like not, women a lot of times are working now, so submitting to your husband about like him wanting to live in a big fancy house when you make 70% of the income and do all of the child care and want to pay for your kids' like, today it's just different, okay? It's just different, and whatever, I don't know. I'm gonna go on to the next TikTok, but I don't think, speaking in general, I don't think that secular women are enraged by women wanting to be in a submissive style relationship. I think it's feeling like it's commanded by God and sharing about your relationship as if it is the norm, as if it is the right thing for everybody, as if it is the only good way to do a marriage, because that's just obviously not the case.
Those who get this will get this, and those who won't get this won't get this. My husband corrected me in the most loving and godly manner yesterday, and I am just I hurry and tell this story before he wakes up because he gets all like weird and nervous when I brag on him. Yesterday, we're about to leave the house. We're taking our 2 youngest boys to grandma's, and I know that she has made them breakfast. 6-year-old gets in the pantry and grabs some chips, and I say, hey, we're not going to do chips right now. Grandma has a good breakfast waiting for you in 15 minutes. Let's not fill ourselves up on junk, right? So I put the chips back, I close the pantry door, and then I am waiting for my husband to finish getting ready. I start answering some emails. In that time, because I'm not fully paying attention, I'm on my laptop, my 6-year-old tries again to go get chips, but this time he goes to his dad, and my husband has no idea, is way more laid back about that stuff anyways, and he lets them have chips. I end up saying like, hey, I just told you that we're not having a snack right now, we're not doing this, and my husband's kind of like, what's the big deal? You're answering emails, we haven't left the house yet, they're still gonna eat breakfast when they get there. But for some reason, y'all, I was like so upset. I was so upset that I felt like he was undermining me, that he was letting our kids just have like whatever, and all this stuff started bubbling up. How always on the same wavelength with like disciplines of the household. He is much more laid back when I like the discipline, for example, of not eating junk food before you've had breakfast. Is like so upset that they were now eating chips and that he was undermining my authority. And then it just like bubbled up all these other like situations.
So this TikTok isn't done yet, but I had to pop in here and just say, we see this a lot in the videos that I cover, especially on parenting. Nathan Sutton, Paul and Morgan. This has come up where the father will basically do the opposite of whatever the mother just did as a parenting move. And then when the wife feels like, hey, we're supposed to be this unified front, like I always submit to you, but I do the majority of the parenting. And so when I tell them no, don't just go tell the kids yes. Is this a huge deal in the grand scheme of things? No, I'm sure that I remember going in asking the other parent and being like a little bit manipulative when I was 5 years old and wanted Oreos or whatever, right? Like all kids do this. All parents probably get annoyed when it inevitably succeeds at some point. And so I don't think it's any kind of a huge deal, but it's valid for her to want to say in that moment, hey, I already told them no, so that then they can talk to the kids and go, hey, don't do that. Because I remember when we were kids, and I think it was valid, my parents would together then be like, don't do that, because next time, like we talk too. It's not like we're not going to find out that whatever happened. But we see men being able to do the opposite all the time, whereas women aren't even allowed to comment on it. They're not allowed to make the parenting choices. And then when their husbands do objectively poor parenting things, this is a very minor example, but in the other videos I cover, there are much larger ones. When the father does something that's like objectively poor parenting, the wives aren't even allowed to say anything about it, because then that's them correcting their husband. So that's where I don't like it. And I think that, it should be communication, not correction. I don't like the framing of it, and I don't like the framing that the husband is just naturally right. But I'm going to let her continue. I just wanted to pop in and say this is really common, this kind of battling over the children. And it actually does kind of go against the Bible, because truly, women are permitted to teach children. They aren't allowed to teach men. So, women a lot of times will feel called spiritually to be a mother, to teach children, and be involved in that way. And so when fathers say, nope, my leadership is actually kind of taking that teaching and leadership role away from the children, you're just basically like a caretaker for them, I'll teach them the standards of life. That's really upsetting for a lot of Christian women, but then they're still told that they have to submit to that, and it's really, really disappointing.
Lack of discipline, and suddenly I was raging. Husband instead of matching my energy or fleeing, like fight or flight is 99% of the time what our usual was. He would either just fight with me back or he would just kind of like flee and leave the situation. Instead, he looked right at me and he said, I'm not speaking to you in this way. Like the way you're speaking to me, I'm not matching that. I am not going to speak to you in that way, and you shouldn't be speaking to me in that way. And my arrogance and pride just enraged me even further. I was like, oh, now you want to be godly and now you want to be kind when you're going to act like all these other times you haven't fought me right back.
I don't know the situation. Obviously, if she was genuinely like screaming at him or something or freaking out, then this could potentially be an appropriate response, like him setting the boundary. But often what I see in the evangelical Christian fundamentalist community is that husbands will use this type of thing to really just not address their wives' feelings. If they don't see their wives' feelings as valid, they don't believe they have to deal with them at all, that their wife just needs to bring it to God. And so they'll literally just won't even engage in the conversation if they don't feel like it's important. He doesn't feel like she has the right to correct him in any form. And so her trying to vocalize her frustration with the parenting miscommunication, if he has a really good day and he's kind of like willing to hear her out, maybe he could, but he does not feel like he is going to be mandated to hear her out by God. Again, obviously, I don't know if she could have been truly, like, screaming at him or something like that. She said, I raged at him. But a lot of times we'll see Christian wives use language like that. I threw a fit, I raged, and then when they go into detail about what that means, it really means that they, like, cried in the bathroom alone for 5 minutes and their husband could tell they cried later and that upset them or something. So I would have some follow-up questions before I condemn her in any way. I would have some follow-up questions about what her communication, I guess, really looked like there.
I mean, God, it was ugly, y'all. We get in the car and it's an awkward car ride. It's a little bit quiet, right? And he just like leans over and turns on this podcast, and it's a podcast that's just talking about how you like love one another.
Does this not feel like manipulation? They had a parenting miscommunication. She got upset. He refused to communicate about it. And now instead of trying to work that out, say, hey, I can see you're still upset. Let's talk about it. He turns on a podcast about how to love each other because she needs the lesson. She needs the sermon. This is exactly the kind of thing that I have an issue with. In a secular relationship, when a woman or a man says that they are like submissive to their partner, what they're talking about is like they don't enjoy making really big life decisions, or like they don't really care, like they're a really type B person and they don't care about most things, so they kind of just let their partner pick. But because it's not mandated by God, they are always capable of sticking up for themselves. They are always able to require more of their partner, to say, hey, I'm not okay with this. I'm not moving there. I don't think this is a good decision. And that is a really key difference. There actually is one clip, I don't know if it'll be in this video or another one, where they talk about the difference between submission and subjugation. How subjugation is making someone submit under duress, basically. But I would say that biblical submission is under duress, because you believe if you don't order your marriage that way, you're going to go to hell. So that really is under duress, in my opinion. For her, she's going to have to perceive this whole situation as her husband leading her, correcting her, and now he's doing the godly thing by, instead of continuing to correct her himself, he's playing a podcast on love so she can get the point through a pastor's words. It's just demeaning. And yeah, honestly, I would want to leave this marriage.
In a godly way, how you serve one another, how you realize the blessing one another, how you honor one another. As we're listening, I'm starting to tear up, and my heart is starting to be softened. I reach over and I grab his hand, and he was like, what's so funny? He was like, last night while you were sleeping, I was up praying. All of a sudden, I had this idea to go look at this podcaster that I've been listening to and just see if he had anything to listen to while I was up. All about marriage. It was all about overcoming conflict and putting each other first.
He didn't put her first and they didn't overcome the conflict. He literally completely shut down the conversation. Like, you guys, I understand there's a lot of nuance in every relationship, right? So you have to, give me grace too. Like, I'm a person, for example, that if there's going to be a heated moment, just historically, I would rather process for 10 minutes on my own and then come back so that I can communicate clearly. And so I've definitely said to people throughout my life, like, I'm not going to talk about this right now. I need 10 minutes and then we can come back to it. But I think the key part here is that I don't tell people we can't have this conversation, period. We're not going here, period. When I'm in an intimate relationship with that person and they're trying to, discuss a valid conflict that has come up, especially something as minor as, like, obviously I'm not a parent, but a parenting miscommunication, that's going to happen to all people that are co-parenting, I'm sure. But, like, to me, she's like, oh, it's so magical and spiritual that he found this podcast. He couldn't have handled this situation, I don't want to say worse, but because he could have handled it worse for sure, but he just didn't really handle it at all.
And honoring one another, even in the hard, and solving conflict in a godly way. He goes, and isn't that so funny that I just happened upon that? And then the next morning I met with an exact situation where the Lord's like, okay, I'm going to put you to the test. Are you going to take this godly wisdom and scriptural backed way of dealing with conflict in your marriage? And are you going to exercise it?
So you're telling me he already listened to this podcast last night, but then just slyly turned it back on in the car for her? Like, I do not believe that he magically listened to this the night before. I don't believe that at all. I think he's trying to manipulate her and she's believing it, because what that's going to do is make her believe that he did have the godly response. It's going to make her believe that God actually prepped him for this situation. He passed the test, she failed it. And it's going to once again make her not want to stick up for herself. It's agitating to see, but it is a very common thing, once again, in evangelical culture.
You know how amazing it is to be corrected or disciplined by your husband because you know how much he loves you? It took me a minute to get over my pride and arrogance, but to then realize that my husband loves me so much that he crucified his flesh and did not dishonor me when I was dishonoring him, and he loved me even when I was not being loved.
The reality is that a lot of Christian women are trained to do this through Christian programming. They're trained to blame themselves for whatever is going on. If they're not satisfied in their marriage, that's their own fault. They need to be looking to God for that. If their husband is abusing them, maybe it's because they're not submitting well enough. Their husband is mean to them, maybe they're not putting out enough. It is just, they're taught to constantly reframe things as a spiritual problem within themselves, and it's disappointing because I think that these are fixable problems, right? If the husband instead, and again, I don't know what she said to him, but Christian women love to blame themselves. We see this in other videos I've made where women will be like, I put him through hell that night. And it was like, what was the hell? It was her asking him, why do you yell at me? That hurts my feelings, and then him getting angered by that. It's not like they're actually doing these things, or they'll talk about their children throwing a fit, and then later they'll clarify that their kid was just whining. That's the type of stuff we see. So I don't know exactly what was going on, but again, I don't know. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And also, the reality is, if she was raging, screaming at him, that's not okay. If she's emotionally or verbally abusing him, that's not okay. And he shouldn't just accept that either. So nothing about this scenario, no matter which way you swing it, nothing about it is okay.
It's really crazy to me how the idea of a woman submitting to a man is so controversial. Being feminine has been replaced with feminism.
Evangelical Christians love to say things that sound good on the face of it, but actually make no sense in reality. What could she possibly mean by femininity has been replaced by feminism? Are you saying that because some women choose to have jobs, some women choose to stay at home, some women choose to do a hybrid things, whatever, because women are able to choose different things now that they're less feminine? Like, I don't really get it. Feminism has not made women less feminine. But also, what does she even mean by that? Is she saying submission is feminine? Because if that's the case, then yes, women have been more empowered through feminism. That's the case, but I don't know how you could argue that that is a harm.
Like, submission has such a negative perception to today's society. God's word does not change. His word is true to this day. A woman naturally needs to submit to a man. Like, this is the divine order that God created. And
obviously, this is tied to her religious beliefs, so I'm not going to really debate that. If she just personally believes that's God's order, fine. I disagree with that, obviously, as a secular person, and I just have to pause it here to say that this is obviously, I mean, just look around you at the world. I know a lot of couples where the wife is more of the leader and the husband is more submissive. Like, they probably wouldn't describe themselves that way, but that is like what's going on. There's nothing wrong with that. People have a million different relationship styles. It really is whatever works for you. And submitting to a man is not going to work for every single woman. We can look around us and just see that that is objectively not the case.
he did not make mistakes. Order of God goes God, then husband, then wife, and then children. This is simple. This is the design of God. This is not new. The devil has been attacking the order of God since the beginning. Look back at the story of Adam and Eve. Adam was created, and then Eve was created out of Adam to be his helper. The man came first, and then came the woman. Then the serpent went to the woman because he knows that women are naturally more naive and emotional. So the serpent went not to the husband, but to the wife, or to the woman, and deceived her, and then had her deceive Adam. So this is why God created the order of man and then woman.
This is an age-old argument that because Eve was the first one to sin and then to lead her husband astray, that is why God wants husbands to lead, and that's why there is a biblical order. I don't think that that is the case, right? In the Garden of Eden, things were perfect. They were doing things perfectly. Adam didn't lead in that scenario. He literally physically walked with God in the garden, and he still didn't lead in that way. Did he not know he was supposed to? The Bible doesn't say, like, Adam, you should have been in charge. What they do say, like, why did you believe the lies of your wife or something like that? But that kind of more comes across to me, not saying, like, you should have been in charge of her, but more like, why are you believing that, like, you guys are in the garden together? You have no more information than each other. Why are you believing the shit that she's saying? That's kind of what I get out of it. I am going to end her TikTok here, though, because she does just kind of, I don't know, this whole thing sits wrong with me. She's obviously very fundamentalist and conservative, and it's hard for me to talk about it in a, like debate with it, because it is just her personal belief, and it does contradict so much with what we know to be true about reality. I don't believe that there is a divine order for marriage, and so therefore that's really all I can say about that. This next one, though, is going to be a lot more easy to respond to, so it'll make you just as mad as this one, but there'll be more for us to talk about.
5 things I never do as a godly wife.
Number 5, she never undermines my leadership in front of the children.
If I disagree, which is very rare, we talk privately. In front of our kids, we are united front always.
I feel like this should go both ways, and then if so, then it's just good parenting advice. Like, I think in general, healthy co-parenting relationships where you're parenting in the same house, if you disagree about something, you're not going to call that out in the moment in front of the child just because it's confusing to them, unless things go like, I don't know, like, obviously if your spouse is insane and flies off the handle, then you might need to, in the moment, like, remove the child or something like that. But barring extreme circumstances, I think, yeah, ideally you're not arguing in front of the children. I don't think that that's a Christian thing unless they are literally saying, which I think they are, that only the wife cannot correct the husband in front of the children, but the husband can correct the wife. I think that is really harmful, because that does teach the children what your weird relationship dynamic is, and it shows them that the mom does not have as valid of an opinion as the dad.
Number 4, she never withholds sex to get her way.
Intimacy is a gift, not a bargaining chip. I will never use it as a weapon.
Number 3.
I genuinely do not think that most people are using sex as a weapon in a relationship. I think that people can feel that sex is weaponized if their needs aren't met, but really I think that that's kind of a misunderstanding of what's going on. I think typically if you don't have a healthy, intimate life, then maybe there's something going on with your connection with them. Maybe they're very stressed out. Like, there can be other things going on, but for her to make the claim, like, I'm never gonna use sex as a weapon, like, yeah, like, no shit, that's, like, never crossed my mind.
3. Speak to me like I'm her child.
He's my covering and my protector, not someone to mother. My words will lift him up, not tear him down.
I feel like saying my words will lift him up, not tear him down, but then also saying I'm not his mother, those two things, like, don't work well. I think that a mother more so is not going to criticize or vocalize opinions as much and let their child develop on their own. Whereas with a partner, you kind of have to be able to directly communicate. Obviously, I don't think you should ever belittle your partner, put them down. Like, I don't think, I don't ever want my partner to just feel generally criticized by me. That would be terrible. So I can get that, but again, it's just like, this is her setting a boundary. It would seem like that she's not allowed to vocalize any sort of concerns or criticism or really anything else. Unfortunately, the truth does not always lift us up and build us up, but sometimes to improve your relationship, you do have to hear the truth about things, about your partner's feelings, even if that's not what you want to hear.
Number 2. Seek validation from other men.
My validation is found in Christ and my husband's love, not from attention from other men.
Yeah, is this a gendered thing? This is, like, if you're in a monogamous relationship, whether you're religious or secular, neither of you are ideally, like, if that's the way your relationship functions, you're not going out and getting attention from other people because you're monogamous. You're committed to that one other person. I don't know, this one to me is, like, not that groundbreaking. They're saying it like it's really a big deal, but to me this is just kind of like, most people are monogamous, and I don't think that most people feel like that's some big huge thing.
And number 1, try to play the role of the leader.
God gave my husband the position of head of the home. That's not oppression, that's order. I don't try to take the wheel, I champion his leadership.
If you want to be submissive in general, I don't really have a problem with it. I don't like it when you are doing it because it's mandated by God. But yeah, ideally, like, you are championing your spouse, period. Ideally, you're building them up, period. Them making these gendered, because they're such basic things in all relationships, or should be, if you're in, like, the type of relationship, the style that they're in. It makes me concerned that he's not doing those things, and I don't know. I am concerned that he's not doing them. Let's go to the next one.
How can a woman live a biblical marriage with submission, respect, and honor without it feeling heavy or exhausting? Believe it or not, the answer is in the Bible. Many times we hear biblical teaching about marriage and about women's submission. We immediately think that's really hard, and don't get me wrong, it's hard. But there's actually a secret to this in the word that a lot of people normally miss. In Ephesians, before Apostle Paul even talks about husbands and wives, he says something that's very important. He says, believers should be filled with the Spirit, living lives that are marked by humility, gratitude, and reverence for Christ. And only after that, he says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. The whole passage that talks about marriage is actually rooted in our relationship with Jesus first. After that is when Paul applies this principle of marriage. He says that the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. He says wives should respond to their husbands, submit to their husbands as to the Lord. And that is the key, and I'm going to repeat it. Submit to your husbands, respond to your husbands as to the Lord.
Because ultimately your Christian husband is supposed to be submitting to the Lord, and so you submitting to your husband is you submitting to God. Where this becomes problematic is that every single person on this planet is imperfect, and a lot of these husbands are not perfect people. They've been told that they just get to be the leader. They're not very empathetic. They don't really care about their wives' feelings, as we've seen throughout so many videos, whether it's forcing their wives to work while being full-time stay-at-home parents and homemakers, or not allowing them to spend money when they need to, or not allowing them to seek medical attention like they should. These spiritual, like, it's not always even safe for women to just kind of blindly follow. But I feel like what she's going to say is that because, like, the loophole here where it gets easier is that you have to understand that you're not submitting to your husband. When you submit to your husband, you're submitting to God when you submit to your husband. Again, I think that's a really dangerous conflation to make.
So we are first serving Christ when we choose to respect, to honor, to be faithful, to submit. We are first offering that to the Lord. There's a hierarchy, right? The Lord, husband, wife. That is organized. When we, as wives, choose to submit to the Lord first, it trickles down, and submitting to our husband then becomes so much easier and lighter. It's like the weight lifts because we are now offering this sacrifice to the Lord.
So often on this channel, we see Christian women spiritualizing real problems that could be solved with communication and turning those problems inwards and just blaming themselves, trying to work on themselves. That is very toxic to see. I do not like this woman's video kind of conflating. I understand that it technically is the biblical viewpoint on it, but if I were to go back to Christianity, I have a much more progressive interpretation of it today, and I think that her interpretation very clearly tells me that she is part of the evangelical fundamentalist church in America. Let's go on to the next TikTok. We've got a few more to get through.
A lot of women hear the word submission and they are instantly fearful, angry, upset, and rightfully so. For most women that are afraid of the word submission, they have been in a situation where they were abused, neglected, or abandoned by someone who had some position of power and authority over their life. So I want to start this video by saying, if you are a female and you are in a relationship with a partner who is abusive or unfaithful, unkind to you, do not listen any further. Just go ahead and scroll on by. But for you,
we can all acknowledge this relationship structure is dangerous for women in abusive relationships, although I will say Christianity only gives you an out for cheating, not abuse. So women who are abused, typically if they're religious, would feel that they need to stay in those marriages. And the Bible says that if your husband is not a Christian, you still should submit to him as if he is a Christian. So you put yourself in these situations where it's not like the Bible says, if he's loving you like Christ loved the church. No, your job as a wife, you are told, is not to evaluate how your husband is doing as a leader. Your job is just to submit, period. And that is really dangerous. And so, yes, we can all acknowledge that being with an abusive partner and then blindly submitting is dangerous, right? But I take it a step further in my videos by trying to warn you guys and share with you, kind of educate people on the fact that I think that this relationship structure, when you believe that it's mandated by God, it almost makes abuse patterns inevitable. Even if you have good people in the relationship, even if like you have a man who really does care and love his wife, these relationship patterns almost make it inevitable that emotional abuse, financial abuse, these things are going to occur. And that's what's so disappointing. But I'm going to let her continue. Obviously, she believes that there is a right way to do fundamentalist submission, which I am obviously just going to kind of disagree with.
Submission is the most beautiful gift that a woman can receive, and also the most beautiful gift that a woman can give to her husband. And not only is it a beautiful gift, but it is required and commanded of us as wives if we are going to be a follower of Christ.
And that's where I have a problem with it.
Now, I think a lot of women tend to picture this idea of like a husband standing on top of his wife as if she's a doormat when they hear the word submission. And so I just want to take a moment to talk about the beauty and the safe measures of submitting to your husband. So understand this, ladies. When your husband someday passes on, leaves this world, and he stands before God, your husband will be the one to answer for God for how he treated you, how he led you and your family, if he taught them about God, if he worked hard and taught us how to work and take care of, if he was compassionate, understanding. God will hold your husband accountable and in charge of you and your whole entire household, okay?
Boo-hoo. Every single person alive mothers are going to be judged on how they were wives and how this is not some big thing. Every single one of us gets judged at the end of the day according to the Christian perspective. So, like, especially if you don't have a Christian husband, which again, the Bible says you still need to submit to them even if they're not, religious. Whatever. Oh, this woman.
So you're not going to be the one answering for your marriage. Your husband's going to be answering for your marriage. So because your husband's going to be answering for your marriage, it is important that you get out of the way and you allow him to lead. Now, submission is not, I don't matter and my husband is the king, head honcho that makes every single decision regardless of how I feel. Any true follower of Christ that is a husband understands that inside of a marriage, you are one. A godly husband will not be making decisions for you and your family without consulting with you, having a conversation with you, getting your thoughts and feelings. A godly husband is not going to continuously neglect your recommendations or your thoughts or your proposals, your ideas. A godly husband understands that when he thinks and when he decides, he is not deciding for himself. He is deciding what is in the best interest for him and every single member inside of his household.
Ideally, yes, a Christian husband is going to consider his wife and children, but ultimately, marriage isn't meant to make you happy, it's meant to make you holy. And so if your husband does consistently disagree with you and feel like God is leading him elsewhere despite you having frustration with it, that is on you to submit. Like, she's saying the nice things here, but in practice, it doesn't actually matter. Some women might get lucky and have husbands that are more empathetic towards them and want to cater to them more often, but you get a lot of husbands, especially over 20 years of marriage, who are tired and they have decision-making fatigue at that point, and they're just making decisions and they're honestly not really considering everyone fully. Yeah, that's on them, but it's also on the wife for signing up for, and the religion structure, like, she's a victim here too, but it's like they sign up for this relationship structure too, and it is not clearly the best thing for a lot of people.
Now, second to that, a godly husband also understands that we are all called to submit to one another, which means as you're submitting to him, he should also be submitting to you. Why does he get the leadership role then? Because it's extremely important that somebody has someone inside of their home that is in charge for their family, for their home, and making those decisions. And God created men to fulfill this role.
It's not extremely important. Many marriages function like a team, like a partnership, and they work through these decisions together. And the partners might alternate who kind of compromises more or who maybe submits in that scenario. It really just compromises. I think that a lot of relationships do function like a team. I don't think that it's not clear to me that you do need one head of the relationship. For some people, they like that, and that's fine. But I don't think that that is something that is, like, divinely inspired.
Now, understand that as a wife, when you truly embrace submission, it is a moment where you take all of this, what they call masculine energy, and you lay it on the sideline, okay? All of that having to function for yourself and defend yourself and fight for yourself and protect yourself. You take all that and you sit it on the sideline. As long as you have the husband that is loving, kind, gentle, leading, loyal, those things.
It's nice that she keeps saying, like, as long as they're loving and whatever. But again, like, once you get down to the facts of it, the details of it, a husband just saying, like, I feel love towards you is kind of enough for you to have to submit to him. And again, even if your husband isn't a Christian, even if he treats you harshly, even if he isn't kind to you, the only really biblically mandated reason to get out of a marriage is them cheating on you, like sexual immorality, them going outside of the relationship. Abuse is not even really, like, the church technically will say, like, they'll give a pass to people who are being abused physically typically, but most churches would not allow people to leave a marriage for, like, emotional, verbal, or financial abuse.
You're on the side and you put your trust into him. You validate him as the leader of your home. And you say, okay, look, I'm going to trust you to make the decisions for us. I'm going to trust you to lead. And I'm going to be here. I love it. I think it is a wonderful gift to be able to look at my husband and be like, all right, Mr. Brewer, you do your thing because you're going to answer for it. And I'm here to help you, to encourage you, to submit, to, to serve in whatever way I can to contribute to your leadership. But you're answering for it. So, like, do your thing.
That is a very naive viewpoint to have. To just be like, well, you're going to be the one answering for it in the afterlife, so have at it. Like, women have to live real daily lives with these men. They have to wake up and go to sleep with these men, and you need to actually deal with this relationship. If you're, a Christian, ideally, you're married your whole life, like 60 years. So it's just such a naive, minimalistic view to have on things, and I think it genuinely is only possible to have this attitude if you are super used to suppressing your own needs and desires and what you want, and you convince yourself that it's easier to have no opinion, to basically be turned back into a child. Your husband is now your father. To convince yourself that that is actually easier and better. Some people, again, are going to naturally like this type of relationship style, whether it's the man or the woman leading. I don't have an issue with that, but when you believe that it's mandated by God, it puts you at risk of being abused, and it sets you up to be in toxic patterns, even if you're both good people. And when you push those things down, blame yourself, and don't communicate over decades long, those things are going to build into resentments that truly do make your marriage, like, unlivable or whatever. That's where then wives will be like, submission is about long suffering, and it's like the long suffering is just them staying in their marriage.
I'm about to piss a lot of women off. I happily submit to my husband.
No one's pissed off that you personally submit to your husband. People, I think, get irritated when Christians come on the internet and say that all women should submit to their husbands, because that is a very dangerous and, frankly, stupid thing to say. I don't understand why these women love to act like saying their Christian values are just going to enrage people. I think, people, maybe anger can be like the humor style used with some of these things. Like, they'll call these people out and maybe come on a little aggressive, but it's because of how harmful it is. I don't care that you are personally submitting to your husband. What's her name? Brit? Yeah, okay, Brittany. I don't give a fuck that you submit to your husband. Nobody does. Like, thank you for taking him off the market.
I know he always has my best interest in mind. He has never steered me wrong. I couldn't tell you how many times I had a bad idea. He knew it, and I was happy with him saying no.
And that's you, Britt, and if you have to be managed, that's okay. If your husband needs to be your handler, that's fine. But for the majority of adult women, part of the perks of being in relationships with adults, other mature adults, is that you actually can kind of self-check, and you know if something is a horrendous idea or not. And therefore, when you're in a relationship, the wife is actually an asset. I know, God forbid, that's crazy. That's crazy work. It's a crazy idea, crazy concept. But women are actually there as equals, and so they can bounce ideas off of each other. They actually are both coming up with good ideas and get to pick the best one, and it's not always defined who it's going to be in advance. So it's okay, Britt, that you need your husband to literally handle you, but that is not going to be right for every woman, because a lot more women are capable of more than that.
We're not gonna do this. He is the one that is the logical thinker, and I am the free spirit that thinks about all sorts of crazy stuff that makes no sense half the time.
This is a concerning wave of Christian men that want wives like this, that are functioning like little girls. You are an adult woman. This isn't even biblical. When you look at the Proverbs 31 woman, she's like a hustler. She's running businesses. She's investing in real estate. She's keeping her home afloat. She's managing the children. What do you mean you're just a free thinker and you're that's not even biblical, dude. That's not even it's just such, oh my God, this one's really bothering me actually. Again, it's not that she's submitting to her husband, it's the public messaging being put out. And I think also kind of her condescending attitude. Her attitude is very off off-putting. She does not seem like, I mean, the Bible also says to be modest and for women to be like mild-mannered and gentle. And like this woman doesn't seem like any of that. She seems like, I mean, she's just self-describing herself as somebody who makes extremely poor decisions, is aloof, and doesn't contribute like in an adult way to her marriage. It's that the concerning trend, like I kind of started out saying and went on my tangent, of men wanting women who behave like little girls, look like little girls and behave like little girls. You should want an adult partner if you're an adult man. Somebody like how Britt is behaving, that should be off-putting to you if you're an adult. I started this off by saying my goal was really to show you how prevalent this is, how common it is, and how deep these beliefs really go. And I think we've succeeded in that today. Hopefully you guys have something to say in the comments. I really would love to hear your thoughts, but if you can't think of anything to say other than disgust and shock and awe, feel free to leave a bird or, a dove in the comments below because that's my logo. Please like this video, hit subscribe, or double check to make sure that you are subscribed if you're not already, because about half of you that watch my videos consistently actually are not subscribed to my channel yet. So there is a 50% chance that you are not subscribed, even if you think that you are. If you want to support me even further, you can always become a member to my channel and see these videos a little bit sooner than everyone else. If you have any ideas of couples or Christian influencers that I should cover or make a video on, please comment it down below, you guys. I know that you guys love Paul and Morgan, and you guys also love Girl Defined. You guys also love, who are the other one? Nate and Sutton. None of them consistently put out videos, and I don't necessarily want them to be the only people that I'm talking about, right? So if you have anybody else that you can think of that puts out consistent longer form videos, not on TikTok, let me know there. I do have, as for me in my house, the Melina Ciccati girl on my list. All right, you guys, thank you once again, and I will see you in the next one.
As the wife, I don't make any household decisions at all. I am completely 100% submissive to my husband at all times. I am here to be of service to him. I clean the house. I'm raising the children. And I'm doing it in all a way that is pleasing to him in the utmost. I make sure his dinner's made when he comes home. I take care of all the pets that we have. And when he comes home, he gets the luxury massages and all of the care. It's my duty to wash his feet and to make sure he's clean at all time and groomed. Really, since he's working, all of the household duties come to me. Since he's gone from the house to earn a living for our family, the least I can do is be in charge of the entire home, under his charge, of course. That's how people used to live, and I would not fit in that environment at all.